It's a pleasure to have you tune in. Today, we're going to delve into a very special document, a dialogue between a master and disciple on Buddhist practice. The core of the discussion revolves around bodhicitta, the awakened mind, and the root of suffering, which is craving, greed, attachment. Our goal is to help you extract key insights from this dialogue and understand why detaching from craving is the first step in spiritual practice. We'll also explore what this might mean for you. This dialogue directly addresses a significant hurdle on the path to spiritual cultivation and the mindset we should adopt towards it. For instance, it highlights why one must be strong and capable before developing bodhicitta, and how true compassion isn't as simple as giving people whatever they ask for. The dialogue states that a bodhicitta practitioner is venerable. To help others, you must first be self-reliant and sufficiently excellent, otherwise, how can others rely on you? This shatters the misconception that being kind-hearted but weak allows you to provide significant help. Strength is required, whether it's in terms of merit, wisdom, or ability. This forms the foundation for benefiting others. The text also mentions that a bodhicitta practitioner is like a hidden treasure, 福藏. This means that bodhicitta itself is like an inexhaustible treasure. A hidden treasure is an unexcavated or latent treasure. Once you find and unearth it, you possess these riches. When you share them to help others, for example, by teaching the Dharma or performing altruistic deeds, this treasure doesn't diminish, instead, it grows. This concept differs from our usual thinking, where we generally assume that things given away are lost. The dialogue dedicates considerable effort to discussing craving, stating that all suffering arises from craving. Craving is identified as the source of all problems. The dialogue uses a very apt analogy, comparing craving to drug addiction. You know something is bad, and intellectually you might understand, but you just can't stop. Often, our pursuit of sensory pleasures, eating, drinking, entertainment is akin to an addict's pursuit of a fleeting high. This pursuit itself carries suffering and leads to deeper entanglement. The example given in the text, of children inhaling butane gas from lighters, is truly alarming. For a very brief pleasure, they are unaware of the danger. This is fundamentally consistent with our everyday attachments to food, shopping, or even to relationships. It's all due to a habit, which Buddhism calls 熏习, sangzi, or conditioning, a long-standing, unconscious habit that leads you to mistakenly perceive suffering as pleasure in your pursuit. For example, even after eating your fill, if you see something delicious and force yourself to eat it, isn't that the suffering of not getting what you want? If you have something and are unwilling to share, it might lead to conflict with others, the suffering of encountering what you dislike. If you possess something, you fear losing it. If you don't have something, you constantly desire it. The suffering of separation from loved ones, the suffering of not getting what you want, all these vexations are ultimately inseparable from this craving. Many people might wonder, if I go to the temple to pray for peace or wealth, does that also nurture craving? This is a crucial point. The dialogue states that if Buddhas and Bodhisattvas truly gave you everything you asked for and fulfilled all your desires, it would actually harm you. This is because it would be continuously feeding the bottomless pit of craving, pushing you further away from liberation. True faith in Buddhism should be about learning the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha and striving to become like the Buddha, rather than using Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as tools to satisfy your desires. The blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are primarily meant to guide you and help you awaken from the root, rather than just treating symptoms. So, what should be done? Craving, being born from conditioning, feels deeply ingrained. The dialogue therefore mentions xiu, xiu, which means to repair or cultivate. Our bad habit of craving is broken and needs to be repaired. The method is practice, continuous practice. Remind yourself that craving is the cause of suffering, and recognize its disadvantages. Just as forming a good habit takes time, e.g. 21 days, breaking a bad habit requires even more deliberate practice and determination. One method mentioned in the dialogue sounds a bit extreme. If you crave food, eat until you are uncomfortable, truly experiencing the suffering of excess. Only then can you realize its downsides. This can be seen as a more intensified experiential method, aimed at making you deeply feel that something seemingly pleasurable, when taken to excess, reveals its true nature of suffering. However, the key is whether, after the experience, you truly recognize that suffering and resolve to change. This requires wisdom. It's not about blindly tormenting oneself. Therefore, overcoming craving is the first hurdle in all spiritual practice. If craving persists, other practices become extremely difficult. Craving is like an invisible wall standing in the way. The dialogue gives an example. If you have 10 units of money and meet someone who needs 10 units to alleviate their suffering, if you harbor craving and decide to keep 5 units for yourself, only giving 5. Then your compassionate heart becomes stuck and cannot progress. Thus, detaching from craving is absolutely the first thing to address. It is the most important step in removing the defilements that obscure the mind. If this obstacle can be moved even slightly, the path ahead becomes much smoother. After our discussion today, the core message feels very clear. First, recognize craving, and then begin to confront it. This is the crucial starting point for truly beginning to alleviate suffering and cultivate yourself. The key is truly not about constantly grasping outwards and seeking externally, but about looking inwards and cleaning out what can be called the toxins within yourself that deeply ingrained craving, and the erroneous thoughts and behavioral patterns that grow from it. True power and a stable, peaceful happiness come from inner purity and wisdom, not from fleeting external satisfactions. Finally, here's a point for your reflection. In your life, are there any habits or pursuits that seem insignificant, or that everyone else engages in, but upon closer inspection, might harbor the shadow of craving? Could they be unknowingly draining your mental energy or bringing about vexations you haven't yet noticed? This might be worth a quiet moment of observation.